Welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, very happy to have back on the show Congressman Hank Johnson, a Democrat representing the 4th District in Georgia, serves on the Judiciary Committee and Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Representative Johnson, nice to see you, my friend. Thanks for making some time here on a Friday.
All right, it's great to be with you once again, and I'm just making sure I got you on my whole screen instead of just a little slice of it.
This is all well, the beauty of Zoom, right? We can do so. Let's talk about a few things. One is I'm kind of stunned. There was a time when Donald Trump, while we disagreed with him vehemently, understood something politically. He would even stumble on it. But his response to the affordability issue, which is now an increasing unemployment issue, an increasing inflation issue, again this week over and over, to call it a Democratic hoax seems to be the worst approach I could ever see, ever. Like, this is real pain. What are you seeing in Georgia, like in terms of inflation? Are people talking about struggling? We're seeing more layoffs are happening now across the country. What's going on there?
Yeah, people are aware of the job losses or the job cuts that are being announced on a weekly, if not, you know, semi-daily basis. They are aware of the fact that over 1 million jobs have been lost. Those reports are out, and people are worried about their own job. Consumer confidence, I think, is pretty low in Georgia's 4th congressional district. People are worried about the economy, what's going to happen in the future, and they know that the price of groceries and the price of rent, the price of child care, they know that those are going up, and it's not a hoax. And so for Donald Trump to insist on telling people to not be don't believe your lying eyes, believe what I have to tell you, and that's it. I mean, it's not working. It used to work, but it's not working as well as it used to work.
Yeah, he was lying about things people were not experiencing personally. He could say it's a witch hunt, the Robert Mueller investigation, or Jack Smith, or I really won the 2020 election. People don't feel that. So if they like him, they could go along with it. People are struggling to make ends meet. This is very real. And I fear 2026 is not going to be the great year they're predicting, Trump and Scott Bessent, but more challenging year. And I don't want that, but I think we're going to see that. And one reason, of course, is Republicans and Trump ended the ACA subsidies. And people are about to see that firsthand, what that's like. They're seeing it now, I'm sure, in prices. Are you hearing from people in your district and in Georgia about the inability to afford health insurance?
Yeah, I mean, these premium or these increases in insurance premiums have been shocking to people, and they have been frightening to people because lots of people know that they can't afford it, and they're postponing a decision until the last minute as to whether or not to actually purchase the insurance. When the exchange ends, I think it's December the 6th. That's kind of like D-Day. And people are having to make decisions about whether or not they are going to have health insurance next year. And they really can't afford to do without it, but yet they can't afford it and continue to keep the bills paid. And so people are worried about what's happening, and they're wishing for a glimmer of hope from Congress, that Congress would extend the subsidies and hopefully do it before D-Day. But that is not looking likely, Dean. And so,
No.
you know, that is that's a clear threat. It's an imminent threat. People are feeling it. And if it's not they themselves, then it is a loved one or a neighbor or a coworker who has confided in them about, you know, the prospects of the future in terms of healthcare for them. And so everybody knows that this is a difficult time for people under tremendous stress, and people are worried about the future. And then you put on that the economy overall, with there being no end in sight with these tariffs and the ongoing price increases, often from corporate billionaires who they're just raising prices because they can. They're just
Yeah.
seeing how much they can get, how much they can squeeze out of consumers. And so, without a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and other regulatory relief for consumers, it's open season on big business and billionaires to extract as much profit as they can off the backs of regular working people. And it's not just blacks and minorities, it's MAGA folks who are starting to feel it now.
Certainly. And when the SNAP benefits were stopped, statistically, we saw how much people in states Trump won were going to suffer. And the ACA subsidies, polling shows 75 to nearly 80% of Americans think the subsidies should be reinstated. And just so it's clear, it costs Republicans nothing to reinstate it. No one's saying take the tax cut back from the wealthy to pay for it. And the deficit is huge. And they know you could add, no one loves the deficit, but you could add more to help people. It costs them nothing. It's the right thing to do as well. And they don't care. And I don't understand, why do you go into politics if you don't care about people and about helping people through difficult times? I don't understand this.
Well, I think many Republicans feel like health care is not a right. It is, in fact, a privilege that if you can afford, then you can decide to go ahead and get it. If you decide not to have it, then fine. But they believe in personal choice, and they don't. And they also believe in survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if people get sick and die, they view that as culling of the herd. They that's like herd. What was Trump? Trump used to call it herd immunity.
Right.
But yeah, they actually believe that it's a natural thing for the herd of people to be culled by sickness and disease, and those who are strong enough, they view it as a matter of strength. Those who are strong enough to overcome the challenge of sickness, then these are the strong people, and that's survival of the fittest. That's the way it's supposed to work. It's an inhumane, animalistic way of thinking about humanity and life, and that's some of my congressional colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle. I think many of them adopt that view, and so they simply do not care. And when it comes to Black and brown people in America, they look at health care going to those folks, or the lack of health care going to those folks, means more of them will die. And so we'll be able to accomplish the objective of making America white again and ensuring that it remains under white male dominance and control forever.
It's very insightful. I've had experts on, people who are activists in the disability community who have disabilities, and they're saying the cutting of Medicaid is a form of eugenics, and it is a form of getting rid of the weaker. And the same thing you're saying. I'm trying to Representative Hank Johnson. To shift gears for a second, and issues come up on, in discussions on my show over the last few days, and I promised I would ask you about it because you're on the Judiciary Committee. But a point I was making is that Donald Trump giving pardons to, I don't mean the MAGA people, I mean, a rich guy this week whose own DOJ was prosecuting for rigging bids, for Juan Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, who trafficked 400 tons of cocaine into America, and no doubt killed Americans through cocaine overdoses, that he could take bribes. And I'm not saying he has taken bribes, but I'm saying the case of Trump versus U.S., Justice Sotomayor in her dissent wrote and warned the decision of the majority says takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune. And even before that, she says orders Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate political rival, immune. Organize a military coup, hold on to power, immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune. That's Justice Sotomayor. Is that over the top, or is that your reading of this decision as well, that he really could sell pardons to people and no one can prosecute him for it?
Well, if they could, it would be up to the United States Supreme Court to decide whether or not he was within his official power in doing something. So, they have seized power, the United States Supreme Court, unto themselves to determine whether or not an executive has acted in an official capacity. And they have undermined themselves at the same time because they've given immunity to the president, who then has the power to refuse to accept what their lawful decision might be as to whether or not he acted within an official capacity. Uh, and and so the U.S. Supreme Court was untethered to the Constitution when it rendered its decision uh, bestowing immunity from prosecution on the president, and it just opened up a Pandora's box. And so all of the things that were predicted to happen in the dissent are in fact happening. And nobody has a great confidence in the United States Supreme Court to make a decision as to whether or not the president committed an official act or was in the commission of an official act when he took some kind of action, and that action being releasing or deploying SEAL Team 6 against a political opponent. I mean, if he does that, I did it. If he says I was acting in my official capacity to do that, I mean, then we have to rely on the Supreme Court to make a decision. And so they've opened the door for him to do these things, and the Supreme Court has brought us a long way towards the unbalancing of the checks and balance system. They've thrown it out of whack.
Yep.
Granted the executive undue power, and then gave themselves some power to decide whether or not he's in line or out of line. But he can get out of line and make them irrelevant. And so that's the irony of that immunity decision, Trump versus USA.
It's interesting in that dissent, Sotomayor cites Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a rival. Trump is now using Navy SEAL Team 6 to execute people off the coast of Venezuela. And while it's not a rival, it's for political purposes. And how do you view that? Is there any legality to killing people well over 1,000 miles from the U.S. that don't pose an imminent threat to the United States of America or our forces?
There's been no declaration of war that has been enunciated by the legislative branch that has the power to declare war. So, there is no war. There may be a conflict, but even if you're using the military in a conflict, you still need to abide by the rules of war, both in your own military code of justice and from the standpoint of international law. You still need to be within the parameters of those requirements. And moreover, you have the criminal laws of this country. And so, if there is no military conflict or a legitimate military conflict, then it's really just murder on the high seas. And it's my opinion that the president can declare that we're in a legitimate military conflict because of drug smuggling. But then if there's no proof that drug smuggling was actually being perpetrated by those unfortunate individuals who've been targeted simply because they are in a fast boat going on a route from A to B, we don't even know where they're going, and we blast them out of the water, take no evidence after the situation. I mean, don't offer any explanation or any proof that individuals were engaged in wrongdoing. even if they were, send the Coast Guard out there to apprehend them and bring them back to the U.S. for trial, but do not dispatch the military to use their toys, their drones, and whatever other kinds of delivery systems they want to test on small boats. Don't send them out to kill people, and that's pretty much what has been happening. Uh, However you slice the bread, the killing is unlawful, and whoever is perpetrating it, Dean, needs to be held accountable in the criminal courts of this country, whether or not they are military or civilian or both.
And I'm chatting with Congressman Hank Johnson. Obviously, I couldn't agree with you more. This is the penalty. I mean, you're a former judge and you're an attorney as well. The penalty, we don't have any penalty in America for someone, even if they were selling drugs, that you would execute them. There's no death penalty that I'm aware of. And even if there was, you're going to have some due process. It's not a situation where you say, I'm not going to show you proof, but just trust me, this person's a drug dealer and we're going to just kill them. And if they're survivors, we're going to kill the survivors of the initial strikes as well. This is not what the United States of America is supposed to be about. I don't know how this is playing out on the world stage because I haven't spoken to people in other countries yet, but this is awful for our nation. This is defining us as some kind of like a Putin-esque type of nation.
Yeah, we are the world's number one bully, and we're using our immense, unrivaled power to rule over those who have less power. And we're doing it with impunity. And this sends a shocking message to the world that America is indeed what did they used to call the great hand of Satan or something like that? I mean, America under the Trump regime is demonstrating that that moniker was entirely accurate. The great Satan. That's what we have become in this country when we can start killing people with impunity. It's
And
really shocking to
I,
the conscience, and it's an affront to our basic humanity. No longer can Americans say that we are exceptional. Not when you're going around killing folks like that.
I wish Donald Trump would just nap more. You know, it would be good if he just fell asleep even more so we could have noticed it. But then again, Pete Hegseth might even like that and just do whatever he wants. What was your reaction, Supreme Court, in the Texas case now and redistricting? And on some level, it seems like they're not going to interrupt what happened in California either, though. But the lower court had found it was a racial gerrymander and discrimination based on race in the new congressional map drawn in Texas. But this Supreme Court just said, nope, Texas, go right ahead. That's fine. We don't even care if you're discriminating against Black and brown people. We're going to go along with this.
Yeah, after a trial in the district court, or excuse me, in the Texas court, after a trial where both sides got the opportunity to introduce evidence and then make arguments to the trial court. The trial court, a three-judge panel, decided, and two of those judges, I believe, were Trump appointees, decided that the Texas maps had been drawn purposely from a racial standpoint to assign races to particular districts. And so race was a factor, even though they said it was, state officials said it was all political, but the court found that race was a factor. Then the Trump administration appealed. Justice Alito has the responsibility for emergency issues arising from that particular area of the country, Texas. And so he issued a stay of the decision by that panel that these maps, that the new map in Texas was racially discriminatory, a violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and could not be used. And after careful decision, by that court. The U.S. Supreme Court, Justice Alito gave a temporary stay against that order being implemented. And then after a few days, after the full court got an opportunity to decide the issue on a preliminary basis, they decided to, notwithstanding what the three-judge panel found, they decided to interpose their own findings of fact and decide that we're going to let that gerrymandered map go through so that elections will be held under it. And they did that using the shadow docket, which has been a favorite device they have been using to render what are in effect final decisions on preliminary matters before the court. So before the U.S. Supreme Court has an opportunity to fully examine the record that was made down in the district or down in the three-judge panel court, before they've heard oral arguments and seen the final briefs of the parties before the U.S. Supreme Court, they have pretty much ruled already, and they have done what they have done is to show that they're hell bent on finding that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act violates the rights of the discriminators. And so, in other words, when you try to remedy racial discrimination with the Voting Rights Act, it's a violation of equal protection for the white oppressors.
Right.
And so it's just, so they've sent this signal, and so we're now operating under new law that the U.S. Supreme Court is about to rule is new law before they've actually ruled that way. So it's crazy. This is the most politically biased United States Supreme Court probably since Plessy versus Ferguson.
I mean, Dred Scott or Plessy. I had on earlier this week Evan Milligan, who was the plaintiff in the Milligan case in Mississippi, that went up to Louisiana, that went up to the Supreme Court, and he expressed his concern that they're going to, in the newer case, they had oral argument in June, end the Voting Rights Act. Last thing, the last couple of minutes, I want to touch on something that doesn't get a lot of press, but you've been working hard, talking to the CDC, and you were part of a letter with other members concerned about the hepatitis B vaccine for children, and that the idea that they're putting politics over public health and science, it could really be risky for the children of America. Can you share your concerns a little bit? Because again, I remember this got a little bit of press, but it didn't get the press it deserved.
Yeah, hepatitis B is a global health issue of epidemic proportions, and it has been lessened by the continued rollout of hepatitis B vaccines so that everyone can be vaccinated against hepatitis B to stop the onslaught of the disease. And so despite these efforts, we now have a CDC advisory committee on immunizations that is stacked with vaccine skeptics. And these are people who are skeptical because of financial reasons. They have a financial stake in the outcome, or they are just scientific outliers within their professions. They take issue with established science, and they take issue with it for extreme reasons that are not grounded in scientific research. They ask questions that have already been answered by the research, and they just refuse to accept the research and the results of the research, which are that people are vaccinated, and you're bending the curve on
Yep.
the onslaught of hepatitis B around the world, and not just around the world, but here in the United States of America. And so, for this panel to skeptically limit or start pouring cold, in other words, they're trying to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They're trying to fix what they see as a problem, which has been working well to safeguard Americans from hepatitis B, particularly infants. And so when we vaccinate infants within the first 24 hours, and then a couple of months later, and then at some point thereafter in the future, that regimen has been found to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so and it has been effective without causing any illnesses itself. I mean, it's safe,
Right.
efficacious,
Sure.
and so why change it? But these folks have come in, and they're now changing the regimen, and it's going to result in more people, more hepatitis B. The spread of hepatitis B will be enhanced by the decisions of this CDC advisory committee on immunizations, and it's thoughtless. And again, culling the herd. Maybe
Yeah.
that's part of why they're doing it, but it's going to hurt us all.
I think I appreciate you raising it in your letter, and I wanted to just touch on it here, and it's something we're going to cover more with the continued attacks on vaccines, which are one of the reasons that we've increased life expectancy in this country. It's because of vaccines, and they're actually trying to undermine something that is documented as saving lives and having Americans live longer over time. But Congressman Johnson, it's great chatting with you. Thanks for spending some time and catching up. I wish you the happy holidays. I'll talk to you in the new year. And I wish you the best, my friends. I always appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Dean. I always enjoy having conversation with you and with your listeners. And so I thank you for what you do, and I wish you and your listeners happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, um, Happy Kwanzaa.
Right. As Muslims, we got nothing this month, but everyone else, we're wishing everyone else the best of everything. Whatever you do, enjoy.